right. Austin, welcome to
Man.
the show. Welcome back to the show. We've had you on before,
I think
right?
I
couple
was the
times, I think.
first guest, I think. Or one of the first or something like that. And I was late because I was like, no way, nothing ever starts on time. But then I didn't realize the show is literally just live streamed. And so I looked at it. I was like, man, I should have been there on time. It's my bad.
Well, we
So
got
you live and you learn.
Now you understand.
You live and you learn. And I was here on time this time. I was even early.
You're
So
early. You're helping us do sound checks.
yeah, it was fun.
Okay, well, let's start off. I mean, you guys have been, I guess, most notably the tool, the market creation protocol tool. I don't know how you want to frame it up behind
Sure. Liquidity
Zora.
bootstrapping protocol is what I usually call it, but it could mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. So, yeah, I'd say that the thing we're most known for, I guess, is like the Zora, and then the TBA uses us in some sense, and then like Coop Records and Paragraph. So pretty much like all these like publisher exchanges who are creating tokens utilize us. We more see of ourselves like a protocol where you can use us to do these like really really complex market designs. You can do these really complex liquidity bootstrapping things, and we sort of just like deal with the really complicated on-chain math because we love, but no one else loves it except for us. So
I mean, what's the big kind of core problem you're solving for people that want to launch tokens today?
it's actually just really hard to integrate with AMMs. I think like when I was like working with Uniswap, I was always like, why are these things not winning? Like it's just like, and I was like, they should be winning. I think the AMM is like strictly better than the central limit order book. And the reason is because it's really hard to use. They're just super new. The math's new. It's like, I don't know, complex. And so I think the thing we solve is like we deal with all of the really complex edge cases and the complexity around like placing positions and all sort of the math that you have to do, and sort of make it just like a one line contract call that you call our contracts, and we just deal with the rest of it. So we sort of abstract that away. I think like that's like the future of a lot of these things is like it's like a little black box. You just like send your thing into it, and you can look in the black box if you want to, but it may look back at you, and it might be a little scary.
Got it. I mean, catch us up on, I guess, the journey you've been on over the last 6 months. I think you've kind of been progressively building out your tech. I know, there's a lot of hard math stuff that you have to solve to get where you want to get. Like, what have the last 6 months look like, and where are you guys aiming?
Yeah, so it's funny. We've only been like live for 6 months, which is kind of crazy to think about. I think like the last 6 months has been like, what do like these like I call like Zora like a publisher exchange because they publish the content. We let them like bundle a market with it, and we want to sort of like what do they want, what do they need, and like what does like assets that people want to buy look like. We spend a lot of time sort of like dealing with the like designing these markets for people. And so it's like, okay, we had a little bit of sniping today. What if we move them a little bit? Not enough people are buying. What if we make everything a little cheaper? And so it's really this like iterative process of like designing these markets. And that's like mostly what been the last 6 months has been looking like is like, let's just put something out there, see if it works. If it sucks, we'll just fix it. And then we've been in this like process of updating and updating and updating and updating, which has been fun.
Can you just make the big point here, which is that you still, whether it's the IPO process or it's the way that we have bonding curves launching meme coins today, like what is the core issue that you see that you're dedicating your sort of team and life towards building?
I really think it's just like, how do we get rid of these like middlemen in the process, like connect buyers and sellers? So I think the thing that like AMMs are really good at is getting rid of the market maker. They make it automated and sort of in the name. And the problem with that is like once the token has a price, it's very easy to like continue trading it. But getting that price is like really, really, really hard. And the most important part is it's an economic cost if you're wrong. So when you're wrong placing the price, the team loses money, your buyers lose money, and like the snipers make money. And so essentially like there's this pie of like value that's being created, and we're trying to, I'd say the pie is like snipers are like a huge portion of it right now. We're trying to jam them to be zero. And so it's like really just like value flowing to like long-term believers and then people who are the team themselves.
So like one of the biggest token sales we've seen over the last little while has been the pump token. And the way that they would sort of structure that as a fixed price sale, I think a lot of people sort of assumed that was one good way to avoid the sniper problems. Why is that not true?
Yeah, I think like, so the way that people fix the way that TradFi solves these fixed price sales is by just like locking you up. It's called like IPO flipping. And so they just say like, you can't trade them. And that is like great, but it doesn't really work anyways. Like people figure out ways to get around that. And so what happened with the pump sale, and like I think I tweeted about this, I was like, you just got sniped incredibly. Because what happened was people bought fixed the sale and they just shorted the perp, and then the perp was trading at like 6 billion or something, and so they just made 50% for free. And then what happened was all the buyers came in later, and then they unwound their position by sort of like the people who have sort of hedged all just unwound this liquidity that was coming to sort of speculate on the sale, and they just got crushed. And so all the people, all this like flow that comes in, like from generally from retail or long-term believers, just getting absolutely annihilated by speculator. It's by these sort of these like people who are doing the sniping or so this initial price discovery. And so I think like people really like fixed price auctions. I wrote a whole piece about this. I was like, people, it's like these do not work. Like they sound so nice in your head, but like the game just doesn't work. The game doesn't work, and it just like empirically hasn't. And so it's like, what is the game that works? It's like actually just like a really hard problem. And yeah, like it doesn't, IPOs like clearly haven't worked very well. Like they work, but they are lossy. And so it's like, what is the system that makes just like connecting buyers with sellers? And how do we sort of like continue to iterate to that place where, you just like giving the people who want long-term exposure to assets and then using that to like price these things long-term. So I think like that's like the holy grail of like these market formation is like just connecting buyers and sellers. And that sounds really easy, and it's like I wish it was, but it's like so much harder than it seems, because like yeah, it's there's a lot of ways to make money if you're wrong, and like people will always come make money if they can.
I think you've talked about, right now a lot of the token game is being early, and I think what you're trying to fix with your protocol is changing that game to actually just being right.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do we get the price into price discovery as quickly as possible, so people can just say, is this overvalued, is this undervalued, versus am I early or am I late?
Yeah, so I hear this a lot from like I talk to a lot of liquid funds, and they're always like the reason they don't buy these things is because like they're like, I'm just gonna get exited on by snipers. And so they don't want to buy into these on-chain games because they just know that like the price is not right. It's not a stable equilibrium. And so the thing is like, how do we just like as rapidly get to like a stable equilibrium as possible? And that's a very hard problem to solve, because like currently, you see these like pump and these dumps, and like that's because the top of the price isn't stable. It's unstable. And so what happens is like as this trading happens to get to a stable equilibrium, the price drops a lot. And I think like that is really bad, because one, like the team is getting screwed. Like they're building something that like people want to purchase. The money's just going to them. And it's also like the buyers are getting screwed. And it's just like everyone's getting screwed. It's just like how we just be able to make it like much easier just to make these markets and put value out in the world for people to buy and speculate on.
So it seems like obviously if you're launching, meme coins, this tech is going to work very well, but it seems like specifically well suited to teams that have, a bunch of attention and hype. Launching in kind of an unsophisticated way, it's just going to be a disaster. And obviously, based on the announcement yesterday, there is a very big token launch coming. So what would be your pitch to Base for using Doppler?
Well, I mean, I think we'd love to work with them, obviously. I think the thing is, the thing I think a lot about is like, as these tokens get larger and larger in price, the loss from sniping increases. It's actually doesn't decrease. And so like, that's why Pump got sniped so badly, because there's a huge launch. And so like, it's only going to get more worse with, I don't know what the Base launch will be at, but it'll be a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think like we're trying to build the system and like where like Base feels comfortable building these things and like launching these tokens. And I think like we have shown that we are very far ahead of the curve on thinking about these designs. And we just finished our sort of like the version we put out last year in like July. We just finished it. And so it's like, okay, now the fun starts, and we can, build like more and improved versions of what we want to see. Because I think like then we're swinging to the point where like, okay, we took a lot of these learnings, we can build them, and then we can build a system that can do, these like $20 billion launches, hopefully. And I think like that's going to be a
Billy, let's go.
Yeah, hopefully that's the Base token.
That sounds underpriced.
Hey, we're gonna let the market find that out. That's the best part about it, right?
Yeah, don't go into the Base meeting with 20 bill on there. Let's go.
I saw
Solana, right? Like 150.
I saw someone on Twitter saying $5 billion, and I was like, I don't know. I was like, maybe when I said 20, and I was like, am I like on the Base thing?
We just need to know so much more info from hopefully later today we'll figure out a little bit better way of pricing these things.
I hope he drops it right on the pod. That's what you guys deserve, right?
That's
He's
what
like
we deserve.
base on token right
Okay,
now.
So you guys have been probably the most volume going through your markets has come through Zora,
Yeah.
I'm assuming, right? And so I know that we saw an announcement yesterday, I believe, with Zora making some fee switches.
Yeah.
They're putting more of those fees back to creators, cutting the fees down. My sense was that there was a lot of tinkering going on in those markets
Yes.
for a while. Can you kind of like maybe unpack what that journey has been like and maybe some of the core insights there?
Man, I think people don't I think like it's what a product should look like is you don't know how much work goes on behind the scenes, but like we change those markets weekly at this point, and we're changing them in like a ton of different ways, improving them. We're changing how the bonding curves work. We're adjusting them in real time, and we just don't say any of this. And so I think people don't think we do it, but it's like there's a lot of work going on to sort of like gradient descent into the best type of market. And so
What's the target? Like, what's the KPI that you're actually driving towards today?
it is, I don't even know. It literally vibes. Like we're like looking at like, where is there like a lot of activity? Like are things being bought? Is there speculation by like real users? Are people buying things? Like, are there too many snipers? Is a lot of ones. So like we'll do a lot is like we'll move the curves around. It'll cause sniping or it'll sort of like dry up speculation. And then we'll sort of like just like continually move them back and forth and trying to like, gradient descent.
And is the idea that you actually get to something that is just fully baked in, or do you sort of think this is like the reality of these market creation platforms?
I think eventually something will get baked in. I just don't think there's no mental models for any of this. It's just completely like, there's like vibes and like we do a lot of math to like figure these things out and improve upon the dynamics. But I mean, there's just like no papers about this. There's nothing. And so it's really like the KPI is like, is this doing what we want it to do? And I think the crazy part is like, we have very few levers to move. It's like the starting price, where's the curve place? And like, then the market was like just like crazy information aggregate is like all fighting over it and pricing these things. And so I call it like the inverse of like a hyperparameter for like an AI model where there's like a ton of parameters. You're tuning them to get like one little output. We're doing the opposite. We're tuning this like one little thing for like these crazy amount of inputs. And like there is just no model for it. And so we spend a lot of time just like looking and thinking and processing and like trying to like pick an opinionated stance on where we think. And like Zora's wanted to lower the fee for a while, but we just didn't know what it should look like. It was like, what is a good fee? And then you like ask yourself like this seems like a very easy ask the question. And it's like, I don't really know. There's like not really no one has any idea what the fee should be. And so I think like yesterday they just lowered it, and I was like, okay, like well, fine, we'll see. And if it works well, we'll keep it there. If it goes up, it's not good, we'll figure
How do
it
you
out.
sort of hold, like, there is sort of, having been in crypto for so many years, the sense of, immutability in markets is, I think, a value that was maybe once held stronger than it is today. How does that sort of worldview play up against this one that is maybe more pragmatically based, where you're actually trying to drive, long-term outcomes and requiring a lot of iteration on that?
Yeah, I think the benefit is like, you don't have to change the forward-looking ones. So I think for Zora specifically, you can, like you as a creator can, migrate it, but that is sort of immutability, right? Like that's baked into the protocol that you yourself can make that adjustment. You don't have to, and they can't force you. But it's most of the changes we're making are on an ongoing basis.
Right, so new markets coming up with new.
Yeah, exactly. And
I
so
think
then
it's
you
a
sort
good
of see what
distinction.
happens, and then you're like, okay, cool. And then you get a bunch of shots on goal. And that's why I really love working with the Zora team is like there's just so many shots on goal that happen all day.
Right.
And like the disparate amount of like people who are building things is crazy. It's like, sometimes it's like your post of your phone and your coffee, and then sometimes it's like, Brian Armstrong taking a photo. And yeah, we have no idea what's going to happen. They all look the same to us.
I think one of the critiques of Zora so far is that these tokens are trading like stable coins.
Yeah.
Almost. And it's like, I guess I'm curious how you think about the dichotomy between having a lot of liquidity, which is obviously better for, larger traders, maybe, healthier markets, but also these things pumping is like a core part of their value. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think like the thing I think a lot about is when you sell something that's real and or something that has like a value associated in your head, like, kind of like, your content's not gonna be like $1 billion probably. It's gonna have some cap. And like you can look at like what does their previous content look like and things like that. Like that actually like means that their things are lower and like there's a more reasonable evaluation framework for these things. And so like we see a lot of like buy and holding. Like I think it's funny because like Swan is always like, we want buy and hold. And I'm like, oh, but we only have buy and hold. And so like that's something about the quote pair model is very interesting because it's monetizing buy and hold. It's not monetizing volume as much, which is really impactful because it changes the game where like I just want to create valuable content, not like have a bunch of people trading and speculating and fighting over these things.
Right.
And I think like, I saw some people on Solana were sort of complaining like, oh, like no one holds anything. And it's like, well, you monetize off fees. Like, of course, like that's the KPI is drive as much volatility as possible. That's the opposite of building a stable, sustainable business. You just want like a stable, sustainable business. Like the best curve would look like this. And like that curve doesn't make a lot of money on these platforms. But if you have these like new economic models to make money, like this looks, you make a lot of, and you monetize that. That's very nice. It's like a very good model. And so I don't know. I think like these real things will always have less trading volume than sort of like I call like these sort of bubbles that occur with like meme coins. And like I think it's just like a different game inherently. But I think the problem is like I think like Pump's done a really great job where like they've never promised anything. Like they're just like, this is just the thing. You're playing the game. This is the game. And like they're not like, oh, this is going to be like the future of how we do IPOs. I think the problem is like when you want to do those things, you need a completely different model. And I just don't think like, I think Pump knows that. Like Pump's done a very good job of like doing their one thing and like doing their thing very well. But I think some of the other sort of people are like taking that model, not changing it at all. And then being like, yeah, it's playing completely different.
Sure.
Like it's not.
All right. So I think maybe last question here. You guys, I believe, have a little launch to announce today.
Yeah. We put our so the model that Zora uses is called multi-curve. It's what they use for their sort of like initial price discovery, and we just put it out for anyone who wants to be, if you want to be Zora, if you want to have the same model as they do. Our SDK is like live. It's the Doppler website, which is like doppler.lol. You can see our docs, and you can be your own Zora now. And so I think like it's been it's been great. Like people want to be like very similar to them, and I think like we just wanted to enable these people to build like with what we believe is like the first in class technology for doing a bonding curve. And so if you want to build something on Doppler, if you want to build like if you're a publisher exchange, you want to publish things and build things that are cool, like hit us up. We like building cool things. I think that's like the thing that I was like always talking to people here, and they're like, oh, we want you to they're like, oh, you only like care about like certain things. I was like, no, I care about cool things. So it's like if you were building something cool, let me know. I will build your thing with you. Like I think that's the fun part about the job is we get to build cool things. So
Austin, appreciate you
of
leading
course
us off here today, man. And we're thinking about tokens. We often just give you a call, as you know, but the people don't know. So
the people they'll know eventually,
They'll know eventually.
But we try our best. All right, it's nice
all right, brother.
seeing you.
Thanks so much.
Austin.
Oh yeah, we
Nice
got to
seeing
do this because
we're in person.
yeah, we
I
can
know.
tell you
I
about it.
I usually just close the thing, and I'm like, cool, and I go lay on my couch.
He's gonna go hang out with his cat.